Okay, we're going to talk about what happened to TJ Watt. We know there was a partially collapsed lung. I think it's a little odd that most of the reporting is coming from his brother, JJ Watt. Real quick, if you're not sure who TJ Watt is, he is JJ Watt's younger brother. I was looking at some stats. TJ Watt has like 12 interceptions over a career, and JJ Watt has two. JJ Watt's most sacks in a season, 20. TJ Watt has 22 a couple seasons ago. So you may not know him as well, but he is a beast. I don't know
Yeah,
what those parents. I kind of want to see the mom line up at a linebacker. She maybe could play offensive line for Kansas City right now.
I mean it's in their genes. It sounds like so. It would not shock me. So,
Listen, you do not want to line up against her at the Thanksgiving football game. It's
right.
the last person you want to see.
Well, that's gotta be one heck of a family
Can
football
you
game on Thanksgiving. The Watt family out there.
I
Oh,
want
gee.
none of that.
Nope, nope.
None of that. Okay, so I'm looking at this article from CBS News. What do you know, Ethan, about the partially collapsed lung and TJ Watt?
At first, I saw report as just a medical procedure. They were keeping it very generic. It was actually JJ Watt's post I saw that talked about it being from a dry needling treatment session that they were monitoring. So that's the only thing I've seen really like confirming that. But again, with especially things like this, they're going to keep it close to the chest, and that's not really the public's information to have unless it becomes like a court case kind of thing. But
Right.
it may not even become that. So,
What muscle were they maybe hitting?
oh, there's so many muscles that are over the lung field, as you can kind of see on this. It covers the entire like thorax region, basically your thoracic spine, and where your rib cage is. It's there to protect your lungs. So there's a plethora of muscles that are surrounding that area. I mean, the rhomboids, the in kind of your periscapular, like in between the shoulder blade muscles, are probably the ones that are the most common. And I don't know for sure statistic wise, but I would assume those are the ones that are most common to have the incident of this. The upper trap or neck area, you can kind of see where the peak of that lung comes up kind of close and goes a little bit above the collarbone or around that area. So if you're doing an upper trapezius, mid trapezius area, I mean, it's a risk. It's right there. As far as anatomy goes, there's a lot of different muscles that are around the area. So,
So it could have
um,
been anything from you're talking about the bottom of the ribs, like in my lower back, all the way up to a trap muscle. It could have been anywhere.
yeah, yeah, exactly. I mean, there's not that's not even including the front of the body too. I mean, your chest, your pec muscles, and your yeah, pec muscles are the main one there. There's a few little ones under the collarbone area there, but mainly the pec ones in the front.
That's
So
crazy.
so there's a
Okay.
lot of different areas that that sort of thing could happen, and
It's highly unlikely, though. I mean, when people, the
yeah.
problem with this is dry needling is such a good treatment option. But the first time a lot of people are hearing about this is because of this TJ Watt incident.
The statistic occurrence of pneumothorax happening from a dry needling incident are super low. I mean, anywhere, depending on what studies you're looking at, anywhere from a 0.01% to a 0.1% range. And I can tell you right now, there's more adverse events from other things like taking Tylenol or ibuprofen than the risk of having a pneumothorax from a dry needling treatment. And that's not even breaking down in those statistics which ones were done improperly. That's a lot of times that's usually the case when pneumothoraxes are happening. Not always, mistakes can happen. I mean, we do everything we can to avoid those crucial areas when performing dry needling techniques, and that's why it's so crucial to have the training of the anatomy and the knowledge and the techniques and what you're doing, the reasoning behind it, so you can avoid these sort of things. But even professionals can have mistakes happen like this and be doing everything just right. That's kind of the risk involved. That's why there's liabilities and waivers and things. And athletes understand that they're taking this risk. It's a very low risk. If I, like, for instance, if I told you there's three major ways that pneumothoraxes are created: spontaneous, trauma, or medical procedure. List those out from which ones you think are the most common to least common.
Trauma, spontaneous medical?
So close, except you got the medical part right. They are the least, the most rare to happen, but spontaneous is actually the most common, meaning just happens.
Really?
There's not really a reason for it. It can just happen, and that's the most common. That happens anywhere between like 10 to 20 per 100,000 people a year. Just
So you,
spontaneous pneumothorax.
okay, not only is that going to keep me up at night, but that is kind of shocking. You're more likely to have a lung collapse just randomly than you are to have it happen in a medical incident.
Correct. Now, some of that might come with a underlying medical condition, but I've heard plenty of stories of just healthy individuals having a spontaneous pneumothorax or lung collapse. So it's not a thing that is, I mean, anytime it happens, it is a medical, like a serious medical procedure. There's also incidences where these things happen and they monitor you in the ER for a few hours and watch. And if it doesn't get to a certain point, it heals itself, it's good to go kind of thing. It's not always necessarily needing a procedure done. And all these reports coming out are like surgical procedure. And yes, it is a surgical procedure. It is a serious thing. But the fact that they kind of had the procedure done, they followed the right steps, and the risks were minimal there, and they just got it taken care of there with it. So
I was reading about it and it said that he was experiencing discomfort. So, as somebody that's not a huge fan of pain, I guess I don't think it's as dramatic as you might think when you're thinking about needles in the lung.
correct. Yeah. The pneumothorax, this isn't a thing where like it happens and you hear it
Like
and
a
you're like,
balloon.
yeah, it's nothing like that.
Okay.
It's not something you would even notice right away, most likely. Now I'm could be jumping out on a limb, but also guessing that this isn't his first dry needling session he's done.
Sure.
So feeling something different than what he has before, because there is a little discomfort with getting dry needling. There's no way around that. But for the most part, having that uncomfortable feeling just different, especially around the chest reason, is all enough of a reason to go ahead and get that monitored and checked, especially someone who's, really aware of their body. They're going to know things are off, that sort of thing. But and yeah, he took the right steps to go and get it monitored and taken care of. So
I'm reading this story in CBS News titled, "What is Dry Needling? Here's what to know about the treatment that caused TJ Watt's partially collapsed lung." The weird thing about this article is they interview licensed acupuncturist Jamie Schleier. Why are we interviewing an acupuncturist in a dry needling article is my first question. I should probably ask the author of the article, but those are two different things.
completely different things, and completely different reasonings from where you're putting the needles to, because dry needling is more of a medical anatomical based training that you get, and it's in reference of why you're doing it, where you're inserting, where you're going. First, I mean, I'm not trained in acupuncture, so I can't fully speak on it, but you're using more of an Eastern medicine approach, using meridians, and cheese and different reasonings and thought patterns that are completely separate. So the only similarity is same size of a needle, but
Mm,
completely different use and reasoning behind it. As far as research goes and the use of medical needles and pneumothorax goes, dry needling and acupuncture do tend to lump into the same category as far as like a needling treatment that led to an adverse event. When looking at statistics, it's hard to sometimes separate those two out. I'm sure there is studies that point out that separation, but that could be a reason why they were
I see.
utilizing that
I
as a
see.
reference. But it is unfortunate that that was their expert on dry needling. I mean, acupuncturists can be trained in dry needling, so unless they were an acupuncturist that were certified in dry needling and understood the differences, it is a different technique.
Okay, and then here's what this licensed acupuncturist said about the possibility. They said that one of the reasons that might have happened to TJ Watt is, quote, it may take more for someone with more muscle and a bigger frame may have a deeper one, meaning incision that happened to TJ Watt must have been very deep. That's what the acupuncturist said. Your thoughts on that?
I mean, again, that's kind of up in the air. I mean, depending on where you're doing it, there's plenty of areas, even on a big-bodied person, that doesn't take much to get to the pleura, because that's the thing with the pneumothorax. You're not puncturing into the lung. You can just go into the cavity of the space where the lung is held, or their pleura. So there's a whole layer that's around the ribs that's not, or and that's around the ribs and in between the ribs and lungs that's not the lung. And just getting a puncture into that and creating that void of space and pressure is what the pneumothorax is. It's not that your lung is technically like punctured. I mean, it can be, but it just, the space getting punctured offsets the pressure to where the lung can't inflate. So it's the air being in that pleural space that gives you the pneumothorax. So you don't have to actually puncture the lung itself to create a pneumothorax. So yes, although a bigger individual person with a lot of muscle, and especially if you are targeting the muscle for a dry needling technique, there is a lot more tissue depth to get to. But there's also muscles that are, say, like the serratus anterior, that's right along the rib cage. You get into a certain position there, and you got maybe 3-4 millimeters of space at most, and that's like, 4 centimeters is all you need to get down to the pleura, maybe 5, and even that is not that much of a space. So you don't necessarily have to go deep to cause a pneumothorax either. Again, it's all about the technique and where you're going and how, and if you, where you're at on the anatomically speaking anyway.
So have I learned specifically that a partially collapsed lung could almost mean an expanded lung, where somebody created a situation where the lung would expand more than it should?
Not necessarily. No, not
Okay, we didn't
not
learn that.
not
Okay, that's fine.
expand. And no, think of it as like you have your lung that's in a sac area. So you have your lung as a sac, and then it's surrounded in like a cavity space.
I
Well, if that
see.
cavity space collapses in, or
Oh,
has
okay.
more
Gotcha.
pressure in there because of air that got let in from a puncture,
Yeah.
the lung cannot inflate into that space anymore because of the pressure up against it. So your lung is collapsed in the sense that it cannot
Gotcha.
create a lung there.
It cannot go. Gotcha.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
see.
yeah.
All
So
right.
it's not
So,
like the lung is getting bigger.
right. Well, we still know what was going on in my head is not necessarily what happened here by any means.
Right,
Right.
right.
And
Yeah.
that's why you're here, and that's why you're the expert. If somebody wanted to find out more about dry needling, this is the first they're hearing about it, where do you tell them to go?
Honestly, I'm like more of a go to your professional, consult the professional. So your provider, trust your PT that's certified. I mean, if they've been trained in it, that's who I would go for information. And we also trained with a company, MyoPain Seminars. They were the original dry needling company in the United States. They have a reference page on their website that's got a ton of blog information of anything you need to know about dry needling, and they keep up to like updated information and state laws, regulations, things like that for providers as well. But there's a lot of just for your information for the people that are interested in knowing it too. I believe there's some blogs up on TrueMove
Yeah.
KC online too.
Yep.
A little plug in on those too.
That's
But, yeah.
right. Okay, that's what we'll do. I'll put in the description of the show links to MyoPain Seminars, True Moves blog, and all that stuff. Will be all in the show notes, so you can check that out there. Do not let what you're hearing about TJ Watt taint how you feel about this treatment.
Yeah, again, that's a super rare thing. It's a high profile situation. So it doesn't mean that this is happening a lot and it's a big deal. It just happened to happen with someone that everyone knows who it is. The incidence rates are still really low. And again, a lot of those are due to professionals that weren't doing something correctly or trained incorrectly, or just something like that. But mistakes do happen as well. And who's to say how much of that, because of the incident rate of spontaneous, who knows how many cases just correlated with someone that was getting dry needling and happened to get a spontaneous one. It's, again, so many odds and ends in there. But really, if it's not to scare people away from dry needling. It's super safe technique. This is a really rare
You should almost,
thing that happens with it.
Ethan, take the fact that he was doing it. Travis Kelsey's talked about it. Take that as more of a, I should consider this versus this adverse effect. Final question for you. TJ Watt's going to miss Monday night. They're playing the Dolphins. Steelers still in it. What do you think the chances are he plays over the next remaining 3 weeks or the playoffs if they make it.
Depending on how well he recovers from the incision and the kind of surgery procedure they had to do, they would have to make some of that, but it's going to be pretty minimal. I would think he would be out there by the end of the season. I mean, 2-3 weeks at most. But I mean, with these professional athletes, they get care every single day, and treatment all day. I mean, that's just their job. So you're probably looking at missing this 1 week for sure, depending on how well he recovers. I mean, just from his stats and knowing the athlete that he is, I would be surprised if it was more than 2 games at
Right,
most.
especially if they make the playoffs.
Yeah, especially being in the tight race in that division. And if they make the playoffs, I mean, he's definitely going to be out there.
What are your dry needling certifications?
I have a few of them, just the foundations certifications through MyoPain seminars. Again, the first company in the country to do, but I've also done some of their other courses, dry needling for neurological diseases, also their intramuscular electric stimulation course, or IMES course. I take that. I also teach that course. I teach the live version here, so running that and assist on the other courses. So we're constantly having to keep up with updating the techniques and the company MyoPain seminars. We actually do a cadaver course every year too. And we're actually training and trying to figure out what techniques are safe, which ones are the riskiest, if we can make them safer. My boss, Jan Dahmerholt, who is the owner of MyoPain seminars, he also puts out a ton of research on his safety and things, a bunch of blogs on that MyoPain seminars page about that, and looking into the techniques that are, the safest to do these. And we've really narrowed those down and think we've got a good set of really safe techniques to do these more dangerous or risky areas. Even if that is 0.01%, we would like to, keep that down or even lower. So.
Okay, that's amazing. He's a certified dry needling expert, licensed physical therapist, athletic trainer. I'm your host, Brady. Thank you for listening to this emergency episode of the Blue Tent Breakdown podcast.